新年快乐. Happy New Year in Mandarin. It's New Year's Eve in the Chinese New Year. And it's holiday spirit here where I am. uh, and many things have been in my mind since I last shared with you about letting go of letting go. And today I want to talk about a word, consequence. And what I wanted to do is go straight to Merriam-Webster and let's work on this definition, consequence, because it's going to tie into what I wanted to address today. So let's get the four-part classical definitive Merriam-Webster after all. And I'm going to get up here close because I'm reading. Definition of consequence. A conclusion derived through logic, inference. We can deduce many consequences of which can be tested by experiment. James Bryan Conant. This is a scientific application of this word. And it's the first choice in definition, but it's not really where I wanted to go. Something produced by a cause or necessarily following from a set of conditions. The economic consequences of the war. The refined taste is a consequence of education and habit. Now here we're getting closer. This is what I'm talking about. Something produced by a cause or necessarily following from a set of conditions. It goes on to say, importance with respect to power to produce an effect, mistake or consequence, problem of grave international consequence. So I don't really mean it to a mistake of no consequence. The appearance of importance, self-importance. You will find this consequence very just and reasonable when you see him and his family has a fine, dignified manner which suits the head of such a house. The consequence of importance. Okay, so there we go. Why I want to address that today? Well, originally I titled this Opposites Have Consequences. Okay? Opposites have consequences. And what brought me to this was we talk about non-duality and that opposites, that's not one of Merriam's definition, but opposites are essentially the same according to perspective, according to according to the way things are, actually. Upon awakening, one of the leading up to awakening, one of the things that I got was the big Buddha laugh, the big belly laugh, the joke, the cosmic joke that everybody talked about, and it was free will, destiny was where I focused on. Free will, yes, 100%. Destiny, 100%. How do you reconcile these? I can say yes to destiny, yes to free will, with equal conviction. Because that's when you start laughing, when you really understand that opposites essentially, well, more than essentially, are just different perspectives on the same thing. Different degrees, different locations on the 360-degree sphere. And maybe this sounds a little bit too much like a Zen koan. I don't know. But it will get very simple for you. There'll come a time, as it did for me, when it just made me laugh so hard. Laugh for days, it seemed. And laugh that morphed into sobbing and tears. But that's a story for another day. I've already been there, but I'll revisit, I'm sure. But I try to think of a word that included something to make this more accessible. And the word I came up with is karma. Here I'm reading again. Pardon the squinting, but karma means action, work, or deed. The term also refers to the spiritual principle of cause and effect, often deceptively called the principle, not deceptively, maybe that too, called the principle of karma, wherein intent and actions the individual influence the future of that individual. Good intent and good deeds contribute to good karma and happier rebirths, while bad intent and bad deeds contribute to bad karma and bad rebirths. And thank you to Wikipedia. Well, Wikipedia is just perpetuating a misunderstanding of karma. Deed or action. Work, deed or action. And when I say work, deed, or action, there's no judgment. Good karma, bad karma. There's no such thing as good karma. Equally so, there's no such thing as bad karma. It's not a game. It's not something that you tally up and that you benefit directly from the tally. So much plus, so much minus. And it's so simplistic to say, well, it will be reflected in your next life. Yes and no. Certainly karma has its place. But what we're talking about karma here is that we got to discard the good karma and the bad karma. That's the duality of the karma. And see karma as holistic. Whole. One word that helps me to help you understand non-duality. Everything about karma is contained within just karma. Work, action, deed. We get into the cause and effect, which is the good karma and the bad karma. And again, this is just mind games. Karma is karma, and the name of the game is to rid yourself of karma. Rid yourself of the consequence of your work, action, or deeds. To eliminate, because karma binds you to the secular world. It's part and parcel of the ego. When the ego interferes with clear thinking, when the ego convinces, and it's not a difficult task after all, the ego is an ultimate trickster in any tradition. And it can easily persuade the mind that it's an instrument of decision making, it's an instrument of guidance, it's an instrument of decision making. It's rational thought. Its ultimate use of the mind is rational thought. Nonsense, garbage, baloney, not so. This is what we're sold. This is what keeps our ego clinging on its tenuous claim to reflect anything about us, or most importantly, who or what we are. So this came home to me when I was having a little bit of a health challenge recent few days. Rapid heartbeat, discomfort in the heart area, discomfort in the chest. Actually, the heart lies elsewhere, but I feel in the center of my chest. Rapid 2 to 3 times what my heartbeat should be. That continues. It lasts for a long time. And those of you that are little informed might think, oh, suspect a heart attack. That's what most of us would suspect. Well, I've already been through a heart attack, a couple of them, and I know what they are. And this is not a heart attack. It's something else. And now I've learned what this condition is. It's low blood pressure. The opposite of what I medicate for high blood pressure. I take a Plavix, which is a blood thinner daily, to keep the blood from clotting, because clots lead to strokes, leads to heart attack. A clot to the brain is a stroke. A clot to the heart is a heart attack when your blood coagulates. And when you couple that with thinning of your arteries because of a plaque buildup, cholesterol buildup as a result of a careless diet, or heredity in my case, or a little bit of both. And the condition that 33 years of being a vegetarian didn't really clear up. Still had a heart attack, major heart attack, serious heart attack, hospitalization, leading to open heart surgery, aortic valve replacement. So I know whereof I speak. But this low blood pressure is insidious. And first it was over medication. So it was taking too much. Doctors like to keep your blood pressure at really a false low reading. False because it's only induced through medication. It's a consequence, again, there's my word, of medication. So they overprescribe. That's the tendency here in Taiwan. If a little is good, a lot has to be better. It's like pesticides in the field. I watch the farmer pumping that thing and spraying. A little spray will kill the pest. So that means more and more and more and more spray will be better somehow. More is better. When you really understand less is better. And I understood the concept that less is better. Less is the optimum. So I cut on my own counsel, I cut my own blood pressure medication in half. And this is after 10 years of experimenting to find the drug that had the least consequence. Again, consequence for me, my feeling, how I felt, my thinking, my memory, all the things that improper medication. So you have to be selective. You have to be your own physician. You're in a better position than any doctor to know how something makes you feel. And I was very methodical and patient about this. So I know intimately the consequence of different drugs. And so I've settled on one and I took half the dose that my doctor would prefer I take. And I'm living with an elevated blood pressure, still around the 135 over 80, which for a man of 72 years is not bad. And I'm not sure if I eliminated the other half of my blood pressure medication, what would happen. But I've been warned since the open heart surgery that it's really that I can't do that because my risk of heart attack goes up. And this is something, I'll take their word for it, I'll take their word for it. So I live with my medication. I live with the consequence of my meditation. Meditation, yeah. Meditation helps, but I need to keep this physical form for a bit longer. So I'll do what I have to do to maintain. But going back, karma. There's no good karma, there's no bad karma. This is, you'll have to take my word for it. Karma is action. Work or deeds, which have consequences. So once you understand about non-duality, once you continue continue waking up until you're snapped out of your slumber, and as you are born, reborn, a baby Buddha, and as you mature into your Buddhahood, these things are understood. And my new Zendo, Hayang Zendo, will benefit from my years of meditation, my years of study, my years of being, my years of maturing in my Buddhahood. And a consequence of all of this is that I want to focus on karma. My practice, my teachings have become simpler and simpler to the point that the basis of all that I have to share in words, maybe work, deeds, and actions will express more deeply what really resonates with me. But in terms of verbal expression, word usage, verbiage, I have chosen to err on the side of simplicity, with the major preface that it all begins with surrender. Surrender up your ego. Surrender up your karma. Surrender up everything. Any sense of control, any sense of destiny, any desire. You surrender any jealousy, any pettiness. You surrender all of these, you surrender. To surrender to who? Well, it's easiest for me, my experience was surrender to the violet consuming flame, whose job it is. This light of God, this expression of the infinite, this violet flame that consumes totally anything surrendered up to it without heat. In other words, you could put your hand right in the middle of this violet consuming flame and no consequence from this action. So my practice is essentially surrounding your own heart, because everything has to begin with moi. Everything has to begin here. Everything has to begin inside. So you work. This is a so-called selfish stage of spiritual growth, when the focus is just inward, solely on you, only to emerge, only to the consequence of this focus is that focusing inward on yourself leads you to outward, which is all ultimately you anyway. So it's expansion of the boundaries of what you consider you, and you includes us, them, it, we, any pronoun of your choice, all sentient beings, all forces in the universe. Me is we, is us, is all. So the violet consuming flame encircles the heart. to purify. And you symbolically place yourself in the center of that circle. And you work and you work and you work patiently, without expectations, until that you begin to feel free of the consequence of your deed, action, or work. In other words, your karma. Until you start to feel free of this. And then once you're secure in your own safety, your own safe harbor, you've created this safe harbor from the storms, from the perception of the stormy, chaotic universe, only to begin to see within chaos is, of course, unity. Within division and separateness is wholeness and oneness. These things, as you grow, as you see and understand the consequence of letting go of perception, letting go, letting the mind find a new work for the mind, utilizing the mind. But utilizing the mind in a way that's appropriate with living the life necessary to rediscover your wholeness, your oneness. And in this circle that's still contained within the physical, or you can start to project it out if you want. It's not a stretch to me, because I see that there's no boundary inside, outside. There's really no boundary. There's an artificial construct, it's my rib cage, flesh and bones, but nothing's to prevent me from visualizing this circle with me again in it, this violet consuming flame. Maybe it's a sphere. I love spherical because it's enveloping. It's inclusive instead of exclusive. So then you begin to bring the loved ones, those closest to you, into your intimate circle, into yourself, and see them benefiting from the consumption of the consequence of their words, actions, deeds, work. And breathe in deeply. Breathe in their karma and exhale the ashes, that all that's left, the fine dust that's left. This fine dust will nurture, will fall back to earth and enter into the recycling of us all, restoring, regifting. So, consumption, in. Breathing out the dust, which will help in the continuum of life itself. And then this can expand. This is, by now, when you start including acquaintances, the circle, I feel my circle is kind of lifting up to my head when I'm visualizing this. It's because the idea of these others is in my head. Mostly, honestly, because I only can reflect what I see, what I know, what I see. How close to that is that there really are? Well, you can work on that. It's another gift. Perception. I can see now that essentially I can see people's fears, people's hopes, people's dreads, people's secrets, I can see them without judgment. Because I've learned through the examination of myself that he who is without sin cast the first stone. So no stones will get thrown, okay? Since we're all not free of our own sins, misdeeds, misspoken, misaction, misworked. So you're disposing of this. The group is pretty big when you think about who you know. And then you add who you don't know until it's inclusive. Now there's a sticking point for me, maybe for you, the people that you just don't like. When do you put them in the circle? Well, somehow I realized, for me, it was a little epiphany. Once I didn't purposefully put them in until I embraced the whole world. And I said, hey, wait a minute, I'm embracing the whole world. By ergo, that means that the ones that I'm less than happy with, that I don't like much, okay? They're there too. But it's funny, in the scheme of things, I had to open to everyone. And by the time you're opening it to everyone, this violet consuming flame has become infinite. And that is my teachings. That's all that 60 years has passed the litmus test of what I can do and how I can help through my words. Work, deeds, action is greater, of course. But we have to begin with words because that's all we have. So to utilize what I have, that's it. That's my practice. I'm planning on a single page of paper, laminated, English on one side and Chinese on the other. And I am going to reduce this to 3 steps, because I learned a long time ago that if you ask someone direction, at least I don't listen past 3. I can't remember anything after 3. Turn right, turn left, just go straight, turn right, walk 100 feet, and ask somebody else. I can get you closer. That's all directions are intended, at least for me. Even directions for my computer, for putting things together, I've always taken the spirit of suggestion. Some people I know are so literal. Yeah, good for you, good on you, but I'm not pedantic. I refuse to get trapped in this net of perfectionism, because I was cursed with a desire to be perfect. And it only made acceptance of my shortcomings that much harder. Perfection only magnified my shortcomings, my failures. And that's not where I want to be. That's not how I want to live my life. So, let it go became my credo. Just, let it go. What the hell? Who cares? That'll drive some people insane. If I can't laugh because I want to cry. But it's true. There's those that just won't let go, can't let go. And then, a little epiphany. On top of always wanting to let go, I learned I had to take it a step further. I had to let go of the desire to let go of the training, let go of the tendency, let go of the predilection of simply letting go. So this letting go is a pretty tricky thing, as it turns out. It really took me 60 years to get to the point where I left. I've always said let it go. But how successful has that really been? If I look, there's nothing better than honest self-scrutiny. Take a good look at that person that looks back in you in the mirror. And I could see that, well, I could tell by reactions. Somebody touched my button, somebody that's known me for a long time, and they know where your buttons are. Touch the button and the reaction is instant. Now, this is something that I practiced letting go for so long, yet there it was, quick, faster. Words would come out of my mouth faster than my brain could provide them. So where is it coming from? What's the source? Where have I been storing this up? Where have I been saving all this let it go crap? I remember talking about the 200 bank. I upped the ante, 100-pound bag becomes 200-pound bag. But we all carry this bag of shit on our shoulders. I don't care how much it weighs. But it weights us down. And some of us, I have the really bad posture. And from this sack. And I remember in a particularly steep incline on my path, on my journey, where I said, oh, I'm so tired. And I was, huh? I put down the bag of shit, or so I thought. I let it go and continued blithely, re-energized, just by the simple act of letting it go. But time has a funny way of showing us the errors of our ways. So I got to the place last week where I had to begin letting go of letting go. My life work was to let it go. Only to find out I had to let it go. Because it's work, action, deed. Karma is a consequence. Anything that you hold on to, any words that jump out of your mouth, solicited or unsolicited, have consequence.